Welcome back to the On Switch. We talking valuable information for those out there seeking to join this community of ours. We feel as though ownership is key. We got a good chance to set in with a good guy today. I look at him as a gentleman and a scholar. Washingtonian, DC finest, Washingtonian own, Mr. Headbanger himself. Barry Hunter, what's going on, my man?
Yes, sir.
How
Thanks
you
for the
doing,
introduction.
man? How you doing?
I'm love, man. I'm love.
How your day going, man?
Man, they going beautiful. Even though it's cloudy outside, man, God and the blessing, baby.
Right.
We here.
Right.
And I like that sweatshirt.
Oh, you like that sweatshirt?
Gotta get me one.
We got your size coming
Yes,
in,
sir.
man. Right
Yes,
on
sir.
to you, man. Happy belated Father's Day to you as
Same
well,
thing
man.
to you, brother.
Appreciate it.
And all the other fathers out there.
Yeah, for sure. My man been in the city, man. He been doing a lot of upbringings with the youngins and doing everything. He was actually a Washingtonian himself. You grew up in Southeast Washington, D.C.?
Grew up in Southeast, born in Northeast.
Okay.
After the rise in '68, we moved to Southeast.
Okay.
And, I spent a large part of my teenage years, on up to manhood in Southeast.
Okay, that's what's up. So you trained. You had a lot of world champions. What's one of your first world champions that you ever had, and what year was that, if you can remember?
Oh wow, Lamont was the first world champ. That we had in the pros. We had world champions in the amateurs too.
Okay.
But I believe that was between 2010, 2012.
Okay.
Somewhere in there, because the only reason I gauge it that way, because the last Olympic team that I worked with during that time, Earl Spence was on that team, Jesse Hart, Marcus Brown, Joseph Diaz,
right.
Jose Ramirez, and we all were in camp together. Myself, of course, Lamont, Kenny Porter, Freddie Roach. Just to name a few. And at the time that myself and who was it? Golden Boy, Richard Schaefer.
Okay.
That's how long ago it was.
Wow.
Richard Schaefer, we was actually on the phone negotiating the fight while we were in training camp in Colorado Springs. And the ironic part about it, while I was on the floor, listening to some music, and talking to Richard on the phone, Lamont was in the ring with Freddie Roach at the time. You know what I mean? Freddie working the mitts with him. And after it was over, after I got finished that conversation, I told Freddie, man, we're going to end up fighting each other, man, pretty soon. You know what I mean? Because Freddie had Amir Khan, and that's how it happened.
Yeah, Amir Khan, that's how you got the world champion. Okay. So you definitely got announced, what was that, 2007, Trainer of the Year?
Wow, years, boy, it went by so fast, I don't remember, but I definitely got that.
Okay.
Trainer of the Year, I think it was Trainer of the Year and Manager of the Year. And that was a good award, and I got that award many moons ago.
Man. Yeah. I mean, I guess you done been in so many young kids' lives and been a good part of a role model to them, positive role model to them and everything. So you all come up with Headbangers. What was that, 1993?
In 93.
93. And at that time, y'all were at another facility.
We originated at Lincoln School.
Okay.
I had my nephew's dad, actually, which is Malik Wali, famous referee in boxing, got a job up at Lincoln. I had a contract. I used to have a construction company, and we had contracts on a lot of the buildings around that area. And so one day I'm going home, and I had been removed from boxing at the time for about maybe 10 years.
Okay.
And I was going home one day, and I saw a boxing ring on the basketball court on the blacktop.
Okay.
I said, wow, you know what I mean? It must have had something, popping off up there. I went home, just so happened I had a conversation with him on the phone, and he told me where he was. And I said, whoa, I seen a ring on it. He said, yeah, I work up there, blah, blah, blah. I said, man, that's my thing, you feel me?
Right.
I said, pull me. He said, I got you. So come on up. So I went on up, and When I got there, and actually, I'm gonna be honest with you, I didn't mean to stay. You know what I mean? It was just, go through, check it out, maybe help a couple of kids and roll out, right?
Right.
But shit, every time I try to leave, the kid that come afterwards, story be worse than the one before him. You know what I mean? It just kept going.
Right.
You know what I mean? I found myself stuck. That was in '93.
'93. So that's what I was getting to, because I know I go through a lot of things now that I look back now, consciously and subconsciously, how you can just have yourself in a position, and that position is just meant for you.
Oh yeah.
You don't even know it at the time.
I mean, you and I have plans, all right? God ultimately got his plan already set for you, you feel me?
Exactly.
So a lot of times, that road that you think you should be on, you on the wrong road the whole time, you know what I mean? And you need to be somewhere else,
right.
Which is what we were made to do.
Okay.
And each time, like I said, that I try to leave, you know what I mean, somebody come in who had a story worse than the ones before them, you know what I mean? And so ultimately, that was my calling, man.
Right.
I mean, I had to roll with it.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with that. So when you hear names like Emmanuel Stewart, Customato, Lou Duval, what do you think about that when you hear those type of trainer names?
Two of those names you named were friends of mine. You know what I mean? Real good friends of mine.
Okay.
In fact, Lou was the first one who came out to recruit us to the pros.
Wow.
Like back in '03 or something like that there.
Okay.
And me and Lou was tight. That was my man. In fact, when I went the opposite direction, he called me one day and I told him what we had done. And he said to me, and this one I knew boxing was, I love the sport, but the business of the sport can be crazy. You feel me?
Yeah.
And so Lou wired me up and really was the first one to open my eyes to some craziness, you know what I mean?
And gave you that smell of soul.
Oh.
Open
You know what I mean?
up.
But he was my man.
That's what's up. That's what's up.
Never met Customato, what he did with Tyson, how he did by Tyson.
Yeah.
I thought it was great. You know what I mean? And Tyson acknowledges that. Emmanuel Stewart was like a mentor.
Okay.
You know what I mean? In fact, before he passed away, I was at the gym one day, so he called me and he needed some sparring for it's the kid's name they used to call Superman. It's Adonis Stevenson.
Adonis Stevenson.
And
okay.
He called me and needed sparring for Adonis Stevenson. I had a kid, around the same weight. And so we went off script and he told me that he had to go away to Atlanta, I believe it was, for a procedure.
Okay.
And I asked him, was he all right? He said, yeah, I'm all right. It's a little procedure I gotta have done, you know what I mean? He said, but I done been around, every aspect of the game, I want to do something different. He said, I know y'all down here promoting fights, you know what I mean? So let's hook up, and get back and see what we can do together. Cool. But he never made it back.
Right.
You know what I mean? And he passed away. Okay. So when I got a phone call from a close friend of his, and I told him what happened, of course, I felt bad about it, man. You know what I mean? Because Emmanuel was, to me, I think Emmanuel was the greatest trainer of all time.
Right, yeah.
But nevertheless, I rejoice in the fact that, I had a chance to talk with these guys, man. You know what I mean? They give me all kinds of information.
They expunge.
All kinds of jewels. Yeah. And when they spoke, I didn't speak back. You know what I mean? I just listened.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I just wanted to touch on those particular trainers for a reason, because I don't know if you ever thought of yourself in that same eye, but a lot of the guys that you then came into their lives and helped, they probably look at you, and I know some of them look at you in the same aspect, like the same generational been passed down to you. With certain gifts, you also been having in you, and they shine right through you, through them, and to other kids. So I just wanted for you to think about that and soak that in, man, because a lot of times, like we don't take our flowers while we're here. You know what I mean?
Wow.
So I want to sit here and give you flowers while you're here for being that person that's setting into some of these kids' lives and really change them and being a mentor to them.
Wow, man, I appreciate them kind words, man. Thank you.
Because I'm a little younger than you, and I had a lot of coaches in my life too.
Right.
And I like to give them praise, and anytime I can help them, I help them because y'all meant a lot to us, man.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And
that's heavy, man.
Yeah.
You know, and it's crazy because I'm sitting here trying to break it down, you know, while you were speaking.
Yeah.
That might be the first time in my history that somebody ever, you know, really said what you said. And oftentimes you're right. People really don't recognize a lot of things that you've done until you're gone.
Right.
You feel me?
And then not only that, it's how, like, you coming in here every day and dealing with these kids every day. They don't think about what you got going on at home or anything like that.
No.
But you putting your best foot forward.
Man, you speaking today.
And I just want to give you your flowers.
You are speaking today. You know, and it's crazy because it's funny you said that. One of the last fights we were at, I can't remember which one it was. I was sitting there talking to one of the coaches.
Okay.
And, you know, he was kind of venting a little bit, you know, and I get it. And I said, you know, bro, I said, maybe soon we need to start some type of program where the coaches, you know, can come out and speak, you know what I mean? And kind of just get it off the back, off their chest, the whole nine, because oftentimes they don't, you know, they don't have a voice.
Right.
There's a many coaches that have taken kids from just nothing all the way up through the amateurs, world titles, because you're more than just a coach. You become a father, you know, psychiatrist, the whole nine. And that's damn near any sport.
Even to teach a young man, hey, hold up, you see that woman coming in the door before?
Etiquette,
hold the door,
you know, everything, because it go beyond that. You know what I mean? And you hear these stories over and over again. You said about Customado.
Right, exactly.
You spoke about Emmanuel, you know what I mean, and Lou Duva. And this is the truth.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But oftentimes, even when they put all that type of work in, at the end of the day, years of you gamble with your family, your relationship, your wife or husband, whatever you may have.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, that person you done poured all that stuff into, they out. You know what I mean? I was one of the luckier trainers or teachers of boxing that actually got through that crack.
Right.
Myself.
Right.
Mike Stafford, which was Adrian Brown and Rashid Warren's grassroots coach.
Right.
Virgil Hunter, Andre Ward coach.
Andre Ward was a dog.
Yeah, dog fighter. Andre Rozier. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Kenny Porter. It was Nazim Richardson.
Yeah.
So it was a few of us that came through that class that got through the crack. But behind us, there was so many other coaches that could have very well been in them spots because they was just that damn good.
Right.
You know what I mean? And you measured them by the fruit they bear.
Right.
Them kids they had could roll, man. You know what I mean? And it was all of us always going head to head in the nationals.
From
ground zero, man. Man, we used to, first it was like Hatfields and McCoy, and then we got smart, especially on the East Coast. Instead of us eliminating each other in the tournaments, we ended up mobbing up.
Okay.
And we called ourselves, we had a name, Coalition. And we had the shirt with all the coaches, all the fighters, you know what I mean? And it started picking up.
Okay.
Right? And we were the ones that got through. But like I said, there was a lot of other great amateur coaches that didn't make it through.
Right. So, all right, let's go back to you riding through the streets of DC, and you see that ring out there in the middle of the basketball court. You tune in. You're in there working with the kids. When did your on switch hit you when you was like, I can't get myself away from this?
Well, okay, so when I saw the ring, I talked to Malik, and so I got excited. So what I did, at that time, I was living in, I think, or about to move to Marlow Heights. I was either living there or getting ready to move out there.
Okay.
And in fact, I had moved out there. And after I spoke to him, went over my mom's house. My mom lived in Marbury Plaza,
all right,
Southeast. So I went over there. I looked in the closet. My gym bag was still in the closet from where I left it all many years ago.
Okay.
So I grabbed it, took off, went uptown. And when I got there, it was funny because it wasn't really, it was a storage room. You know what I mean? And it wasn't big as this ring almost.
Okay.
And it had a barrel. But I remember when I walked in, it had maybe a heavy bag and maybe one little speed bag, and it had a barrel, a big blue barrel,
right,
on the floor. I don't know what was in that barrel because it's staying there for years, but it stained the floor, right?
Right,
you feel me?
Right.
And that was it. And so I walked in, there was no order. We didn't have a ring. Kids would run in and out, may hit the bag and run back out. So first thing was first, we had to get order.
Right.
Because it was just chaos. And once we got that, then I got a few little kids I started working with there. And a bigger kid came in. His name was Chris King. He recently passed away.
All right.
And
sorry to hear that.
Yeah, thank you. He recently passed away. And so I started working with him every day. And next thing you know, we started going to the fights. And he started winning. You feel me? And it's crazy because I had my new coach's jacket on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And shining like new money. We really didn't have identity. You know what I mean? And the first tournament that I took him to, shining like new money. First tournament I took him to was the Golden Gloves.
Yep.
And Mr. Gene Hughes, God rest his soul too, he coached Midtown. Apparently the week before he had mistaken a bottle of bleach for a bottle of water and he sprayed it in the kid's face.
Wow.
And so that discussion was going on when I first was my first introduction to these giants, you know what I mean, in the city.
Yeah.
So I go in there and I never forget this day, man, because he was so angry and he was pointing and he moved me out the way, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Didn't say excuse me or nothing.
Right.
So one part you want to fire off, but the other part you don't know if, who is this guy,
what's going on?
Am I going to be that disrespectful to a legend, right? So I just took it.
Yeah.
Fight started, we did that thing. That was the first year, you know what I mean? I didn't feel like I belonged at that table with these dudes, man.
Okay.
And after that first year,
I
had a chance to look at this, and survey the landscape. And one of the things that I said, I openly said it, I say, if this is the best they got, they're in trouble.
Right.
Feel me? So the next year, we was there.
Cleaned up.
Cleaned up, man. We won one national title that first year, my first year. And then after that, we just took flight. Okay. Man. It was a wrap.
So after training King, rest in peace, after training him and being in his life and taking off with that one, what, as a trainer, what do go through your mind when you see somebody that have that it factor? Like when you know that fighter got that it thing.
The eyes of and I always call myself more of a teacher than a trainer, because anybody can train, right? Most people, turn around and sit around our sport for a little bit, go order them some hand mitts, some shit like that there, and I was saying you're a coach, you feel me? Unlike the NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball. Right? But you develop a certain sense, you have a certain eye for talent. Yeah. You mean? And when you see them, attitude may be a certain way. They may move a certain way as far as the athletics are concerned. So it's just a feel you get.
As soon as you see them, certain attributes.
And then you may have situations where he got skill set, he got athleticism, time and all that, but he don't have courage under fire. You feel me?
Right.
Then you may have the one with courage under fire, but not none of the other pieces to it. You know what I mean? So it's rare that you find,
they got
in line. You know what I mean?
Okay.
You may have to go through 25 or 30 before you find 2, 3, 4, or 5 of them.
I definitely can see that. Yeah. So what's some of the typical training camp like for a pro fighter?
Well, normally preparing for a fight, we usually go minimum 8, max 12, somewhere in between there. Depending on the athlete, what state of being he's in, physically and mentally. And knowing the athlete, how long will it take them to prepare for this particular fight? You know what I mean? So we treat 4-round fights like we treating 12-round fights. We treating a regular fight like we treating a world title fight.
Okay. So your last fight, what was that? With Tank? The last one.
Well, actually, of course, we just came back from about two or three other fights, but he was the major.
The major one.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, because you just came. Scooter.
Scooter just
had
fought.
a major victory.
Franchon just fought.
Okay.
Scooter fought twice. Nasheed fought.
Okay.
So yeah, we've been steady going.
Okay. Yeah. So with training Tank in particular, how have he evolved over the years from when you first came to the gym, when you first met him?
When I first met Tank, Calvin brought Tank to the gym. He was about 8 or 9 years old.
Okay.
And the thing that caught me, because he called me one night, he said, "Man, look, I'm gonna bring this little kid past there. I want you to check him out." I said, "Cool." And so he brought him past, and Cal was just starting in the game too. You know what I mean? And the reason why, I was so receptive to it because, he was out there in the community doing the same thing I was doing. So I respect that. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And so anytime he'd call me, I picked the phone up, what's going on, little bro? And we, woo.
Okay.
And so when he brought him to the gym, little dude, man, a lot of energy. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And you could tell then he had that, in him. He was athletic. You know what I mean? And so instantly I fell in love with the little dude, man. And so he pretty much grew up with these cats in the gym, the same one you see in that picture with him.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. We're gonna zoom in on that one. That's a good one there. So how do you balance his when you was training him? How do you balance his raw power with his technical skill work?
In Tank's case, because he's so explosive, and he knocks so many people out. You know what I mean? People forget, but those who know him know he possessed boxing abilities too. His balance crazy, speed is crazy. He could do it all.
So when as a fan, when I sit back and I'm talking to my guys, that's one of the things that I'll be like, man, it's only a certain kind of fighters that had that twitch. And that twitch from not stepping back, but turning.
Oh, he can do all that.
Man, him and Tyson, it was the ones I ever seen.
He can do all that.
Man.
Fast, great balance, power, but it's like anything else. If I get used to it, every time you hit somebody, they going to sleep or you knocking them out, you forget sometime that you possess other abilities. Yeah. And when he fought, what's the dude's name? Cruz.
Okay.
You saw Cruz. You had a chance to see some of that boxing ability. And he was forced to do that because he hurt his hand.
Right.
Before we got in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Because he hurt his right hand. He was only fighting with his left hand.
Yeah, I think it was his right.
Yeah, he
was
only fighting with his left hand.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we did that way before the fight. You know what I mean? In camp. And it just, in the back, actually before we went out, it was known that, but what the hell we gonna do? We here now.
Yeah.
We got the roll.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Everybody made weight.
Yeah. And so he did his thing, man, and that let most people know that didn't know the dude could box too.
Right. Yeah. Well, I don't know who didn't know he couldn't box. They tripping. They must don't know boxing.
They didn't have the pleasure of, I've seen him since he was a little boy.
Okay.
All the way up through the amateurs to the pros. You know what I mean? So we had certain knowledge about him that the average person wouldn't know. You know what I mean?
Right.
That didn't see him.
So the last fight that he had was Lamont Roach, and that you all was in on. How did you mentally prepare him for that fight with knowing that those two guys knew each other?
It was a different ball game for all of us, you know what I mean, to be honest with you, because Lamont was up here prior to that sparring for his last 2 fights. You know what I mean? And by the time I felt, normally what happened, I'll get a call or a cryptic message from Tank or one of the dudes that handle his business.
Okay.
And, and then it's time to go. And then I always respond or I talk to him, who was the target? That's how I found out it was Lamont Roach.
Right.
And but in a prior interview, I told the people then, listen, man, the dude ain't no cheap date.
Right.
I know what he can do.
Yeah.
And he may be the most skilled fighter to date that Tank has fought.
Right.
You know what I mean? So going into that, I heard the people, he gonna knock him out, he gonna blow him out. Woo. again, we had certain knowledge about him
Right.
that the average Joe didn't have.
Right. So what's some of the things that you had to really like tune into with Tank and to get him like mentally a group with that?
He struggled with it, you know what I mean? Because like I said, these are people you grew up with, people you know, people you're friends with.
Right,
You feel me?
yeah.
It's easy for us to get up for people that we don't know.
Right.
You feel me?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Yeah, from another state, another city. Because DC, you know, pretty much we always been just that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But when it's your homie or somebody you deal with or you consider to be a friend,
Right.
I mean, it's different.
Right.
You got to find something to get. And so what I told him was, listen, man, keep it business.
Right.
Business is business. We see NFL players, football players, all the time, basketball players, they going at it on the court or the field. And after that, where you going at night, bro? You know what I mean? And so they hanging out.
Right.
You know what I mean? So you have to keep business and that relationship to relationship.
Yeah.
And don't blend both of them together.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. That's just like having two different businesses. You gotta know where the money coming from. You can't.
Yeah.
You gotta keep that separate.
Yeah.
You gotta keep that separate. So if you when you have a fighter, and whether he JOs or pro, and you're going through it, how do you keep him together when he goes through setbacks?
That's a great question. Because you're going to deal with a whole bunch of different attitudes, a whole bunch of different egos.
Right. Right.
You got envy, you got jealousy.
Right.
You know, you got all of that and all these personalities you have to kind of try to mesh together. You feel me? Yeah. That's where your leadership come in.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And here, I don't care how good or how bad you are. You feel me? You know what I mean? I don't see that.
Exactly.
I just see that person.
Right.
You know what I mean? And if you're in here and you putting work in versus somebody that's walking around and supposed to be a superstar, but they're not putting the work in, I'm occasionally the one that's putting the work in more.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I definitely I go for that one. I go for that one. So what is a moment in Tank's career where you saw him mature right there in front of your eyes mentally?
We always talk about, well, the start of it, when he started to take accountability. We were in the JOs. And I took him, I took Patrick Harris.
Okay.
There's another kid that's on that picture over there standing next to Tank.
Okay.
And a couple other kids. I took them all down to the JO. So at the time, I was the head coach of the JO team. And went down one of the Army barracks down south. And we got down there, you know, of course, everybody rumbling. You know, you had Clarissa Shields, she was the kid down there. Fulton, he was a kid down. So all of them, you know, was coming through together. And he fought a kid and he wigged out on the kid. Went crazy, get ready to hit the kid on the chin, the whole nine. Had a meltdown. And of course I was pissed, man. You know what I mean? You can't represent us like that. You don't represent us like that. There you did, you got woo woo. So I'm getting on, he's still a young boy, about 15.
Okay.
And I said, you get ready to go get that microphone or you're gonna take your ass there and you're gonna apologize to the people. So the official said, well, Coach, we can't do it now, but we can do it first thing in the morning before the tournament starts. So I said, all right, cool. So the next day he came and he looked over at me. He said, he was nervous. I said, man, just go up there and say what you need to say. It's all right, we're gonna be with you. Me and Calvin was together.
Right.
And he said, y'all gonna go with me? And I smiled, I said, we're gonna be right there with you. We got you, kiddo.
Yeah.
So he went in and they had the podiums that you stand on when you receive your medals. Put him on the top of the podium. And he said, good morning. He told him, you know, my name is Javante tankdavis. And he told him, you know, his actions the day before, you know, wasn't good. You know, he wanted to apologize.
Right, right.
And it was so cool, man. And they gave him a standing ovation. Some of the officials, they crying, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
and it was cool.
Right.
That was the first time because he was a kid, but he took accountability for his actions,
Exactly.
man. I was proud of him.
That's what we talking about. That's what we talking about.
Yeah.
See, I'm talking about a lot of the mental part about it because when it come to us, as our color and everything, they act like our mental don't matter and we the worst part of everything. So I like to talk about when people mature and when people on switch hit, because we people too, and at the same time we are that cream of that crop that has that thought process that exceed itself to different platforms and different levels.
No question. You know what I mean? You gotta understand we're people that came from behind anyway.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And so we've been fighting just for everything, just the basic of human rights, bro.
They get mad about everything. We make Poe look good. They
Listen,
get mad
man,
at that.
I was like I said, I was there in '68. My house caught on fire during the riots. You feel me?
Right.
I really didn't understand what was going down at that time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whole Martin Luther King assassination deal.
Right.
But I saw with my own eyes. I've been called niggas by a white supervisor and things of this nature. If you go back in the history of time, you'll see where I had a lawsuit with one of the major hotel chains at that time.
Okay.
And behind that same stuff.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so I've seen it go down.
Firsthand.
Firsthand, you know what I mean?
Right.
And I think in our folks' case, it's okay to learn the ways of the beast so you know how to deal with the beast. But when you learn the ways of the beast and become the beast, that's where the problem is.
Yeah.
And that's what I see going on right now.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I get with that one. I really get with that one. Truly understand that one. So we're gonna get back to Tank, because a lot of his fans, you know, and I have a talk with a lot of guys and a lot of people. Oh man, they certain fights. That fight was boring, man. I be like, man, y'all must don't like boxing or you don't know boxing because they look for knockouts. I be like, y'all gotta look at what the MMA for all that.
Yeah, I mean, listen, man, and I get what you're coming from. You know what I mean? Because that is true.
Right.
Now with the internet, right? Celebrity boxing, little people fighting each other, cats in wheelchairs rumbling.
Right.
You know what I mean? I see few ladies fighting each other in the bar.
Yeah.
You know, now you got the dudes in the streets, they rumbling. You know what I mean? And so we'll get this picture of boxing, what boxing is, but it's nowhere near that you see out there. You know what I mean?
They looking for a knockout and not the sweet side.
Yeah, there's no science to it no more.
Right.
If you start talking about people, well, let's go back. Feel me? Let's go in Virginia right there, where Tom Melano was born in the slavery, right? But it was so fierce. You know, this dude fought so hard till then, who was considered to be his owner, you know, kind of put up this bankroll like mortgage a farm almost, you know, put him in a fight. He came through, he won the fight.
Right.
Cat gave him $500, bought himself out of slavery. He went to New York. You know, and from New York, he went to Europe. You know what I mean? Could nobody beat him. And really, he knocked the champ out of Europe, but they gave him a course, gave him a long count, revived him. He threw a punch, boom, fight over.
Okay.
Melano lose.
Wow.
You feel me?
Wow.
So you go back, he may have been our first champ for real. And he looked like you and me.
Right. Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Then when you go deeper, people like, let's go back to Jack Johnson.
Now, what you told me earlier, now you're talking. Come on,
Yeah,
let's go with it.
Let's go to Jack Johnson.
Yep.
You know, of course, you knew people like John L. Sullivan, James Corbett, some white dudes. You know, they doing their thing.
Right.
But they didn't do it under the same duress and pressure that Jack Johnson is. Imagine you rumbling, you getting called every name in the book. They throwing stuff at you, they shooting guns and all that. And he still was able to perform, bro.
Yeah.
And do his thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then he was so damn defiant, took on white women.
Right.
Back then.
Yeah.
Driving around with top hats and Rolls Royce and all that. Come on, bro.
Right.
You know it was a matter of time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I don't think Jack Johnson get enough credit. See, it's one thing fighting in an arena. But you fighting in an arena not knowing that if I whoop this dude, you know, they gonna kill me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I might not survive.
Right.
And to pull off what he pulled off is just, it's amazing to me.
Amazing. Yeah. I'm glad we touched on that story. what fans don't realize about Tank is his how strategic he is. How could you put into their minds, the listeners, that like explain to them how he want, like it's just not about the big punch. It's about the calculation of his movements.
I think for whatever reason, Tank don't get enough credit.
Okay.
To me. You know, I'm not saying because of my connection with him.
Right.
I'm just calling what I see.
Right.
You know, you think about the last fight that he had at the Barclays. You know, he had Lamont Roach, which he didn't have to pick Lamont. He could have picked anybody else.
Right.
So he got on. Of course, he came back to the gym. When you don't see us, don't mean we ain't there, because oftentimes we write game plans, all kinds of shit for a fight. So we've always been there.
Right. Right.
But us, Scooter,
Okay.
Nasheed,
Right.
the Russell brothers. It was a DC takeover. Jared Hurd,
Right, yeah.
you know, the whole nine. And all of that happened because he wanted it to happen.
Right. Right. You put it all together.
Yeah, you got the powers that be, but if he didn't want it to happen, it wasn't gonna happen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So when you look at that, instead of, you know, trying to throw this man under the bus, you look at that, man, bro, you gotta take your hat off to him.
And that's what a lot of people don't like to do, man.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
And this area where we come from, I don't know why, man.
It's toxic, brother.
And,
you know what I mean?
And I'm not with it. I'm
Yes.
all that crab in the barrel stuff. Jay-Z had a saying. He said, they say crabs pull everybody down in the bucket, but they ain't tell us that we ain't belong. The crabs don't belong in the bucket.
See, that's what I'm talking about, bro. And if you notice, you looking at the crab, even though they pulling, they struggling like hell to get out of that barrel.
Right.
You feel me?
Yep.
Because they know they don't belong there. You know what I mean? And when you look at a cat like that, and I really don't think he knows how much power in this game he wields right now. Tank just want to be regular, bro.
Right.
He don't want to. That's not him. You know what I mean? If he dig you, you know, he have a conversation with you. If he don't like you or what have you, he either not going to speak or the handshake going to be one of them. You going to know. You know what I mean? But as far as...
That's just the language that we understand.
There you go. And as far as... And you don't even have to say a word.
Exactly.
But as far as I'm concerned, he just don't get enough credit, man, because, like I said, everybody on that card that was from here, you know, that benefited from that card, the fact that it was up to him
to put everybody on in position.
Yeah, they put him on. He could have gated it, but he didn't.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I give him all the praise in the world. And, you know, I would take my hat off to him because, you know, I appreciate that, man.
That's what's
up. Because oftentimes, you know, people in those positions don't do nothing like that.
They go the other way.
Yeah.
We're planning for opponent. And you're dealing with one of your champions or big fight. What are some of the focuses first when you planning for a good opponent?
My thing is, you know, of course I love the art of war. You know what I mean? Sun Tzu.
Yep.
You have to know your opponent, your adversary, better than you know yourself, or just as well as you know yourself.
Yep.
Therefore, you know the moves that they're making. You know what they're plotting, what they're planning. You have to do your surveying on your battlefield. It's just like this ring right here, right? You look at the ring, you see the condensation, right? On the floor. Certain bottoms of your shoes won't grip this.
Right.
You'll go ice skating.
Yeah.
So you gotta know what type of shoes to have on. Don't take just one pair of shoes.
Right.
Take different surface.
Yeah.
I mean, different bottoms on your shoes. So, you know, just in case, if this shoe is slippery, I can go ahead and go to plan B. You know, I got something, you know, working.
Exactly.
Things of that nature. You know what I mean?
Okay.
In order preparing for a fight.
For a fight. That's the first things you
Yeah, I usually go in the ring when we get to the place. I survey the ring, see if any weak spot, the ropes are tight, if they loose, so I know if I can bounce off them or not. You know, normally the person that got the high ground at war, you know, tend to be the victim. Right. You feel me? Yep. So I look and see if there's a dip in the ring or any of that stuff. I'm checking out anything. Yeah,
that's what's up. That's what's up. So, so with Tank, how is his natural power off just coming in before training? How is his natural power is versus developing it in training camp?
He got a good base, so you know he's a naturally strong guy. You know what I mean? And speed can't equal power too. So he got best of both worlds. He got speed and power.
I seen when he hit Rolly, he said, I ain't even hit him that hard.
Nah, he can hit, man.
Right,
you know what I mean?
but he said he didn't think he threw it this hard.
Yeah, he you know, and I had a few kids like that were just naturally strong.
Right.
And didn't realize how strong it was. There's a young man in here that was drafted by the Vikings. And the two powers of fighters that stand out to me that I ever felt is Riddick Bowe.
Okay.
And this kid here, Jalen Twyman.
Okay.
The dude hit so hard, bro. This is no lie. I was catching miss with him one day. And it was crazy, you know. I was like, damn, man, this dude hit harder than Bowe, or Bowe like Bowe.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't control Bowe's power.
Right.
And boom, he hit the mitt and damaged the nerve in my face.
God damn. So he throwing that joint.
Yeah. I ain't felt no shit
You never
like that
never felt nothing like that.
No, and he don't box. He's a football player.
Wow. And Bo was a big dude, man. Bo was putting them
Oh yeah,
together.
Bo, man. Bo hit, man. That's why I respect Holyfield for taking them type of shots, man.
Yeah. So going into that, what is you being around for years, being able to talk to them, being able to see them, being able to watch them perform? What is one of your best heavyweights?
That I recognize to be the best?
Yeah, and in your eyes, it's only your opinion.
I thought Riddick Bowe could have been just earth-shattering, man, because he was a big guy, but he could fight inside like a little guy.
He was agile.
His skill set was crazy, you know, to be that size and be able to do the things he could do.
Right.
Of course, Mike was the most explosive, you know, out of all of them. But then I'm going to go back in time, like I say, Jack Johnson. You know, of course, boxing had evolved so much from, you know, stylistically, you know, from there to now. But you got to look at people like Jack Johnson. You have to look at, of course, Tyson, you know, Ali, which everybody loves. He brought the flair. He was a big version of Ray Robinson without having that same crack that Ray Robinson had. I mean, Ray Robinson, although being small, can knock you out with either left or right hand.
And what he was like, 195, 190, something like that?
Ray Robinson? No, he was a lighter guy. He went all the way up to light heavyweight.
Okay, so it was like 190 or it was heavier than that?
No.
It wasn't even that heavy?
No, nowhere near.
Okay.
You know what I mean? But if you pull up his clips, he was just so damn explosive and smooth, you know what I mean? And put you out going backwards just as good as he could do going forward. I mean, but heavyweight-wise, gotta look at Joe Louis. Okay. Of course, Tyson.
Okay. Give me one, bro. Give me one. I know it's hard for you because you done been right there with them all. Give me one.
Are we talking just all around greatest heavyweight or just explosive?
However you look at it, just one that have all those it factors that you talked about that you see in a fighter.
I'm still say Ali was the greatest heavyweight, but you know what I mean? Yeah, I'm going with Ali. I'm gonna go ahead on wrapping around Ali.
You wrapping around Ali.
Wrapping around Ali.
It's your opinion. You can't be wrong
that's my
about
man,
it,
you know what I mean? But then you had so many other great heavyweights, but I think Ali was the GOAT.
Okay, that's what's up. So when have you ever y'all wrote up a plan for taking his opponent and I know you probably, I don't want you to give away no secrets, but you might break it. I'm just saying you may break it down within rounds or things of that nature. What's one of the fights that Tank had where he followed that game plan like perfectly? Rolling.
Yeah. So I was away. I forgot which camera or who was fighting or what have you.
Okay.
But like I say, we always in communication. And so I wrote it. I showed it to you. You know what I mean? It was on the phone. He got it on his. And I saw him on TV and he was he was dead, but he was like his mind was heavy. You know what I mean? You be around them kids long enough, you don't know your kids.
You understand it, yeah.
And I started writing. Blah, 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 blah. We had talked about it, but I wrote it. And I sent it to him.
Okay.
And he replied, he said, man, thanks so much, Coach B. I needed this, man. And I'm like, woo, woo, woo. And sure enough, the fight going on, I'll never forget it. I was just sitting on the side of the bed, and my wife, she was reading her book, and I could hear the announcer, oh, boom, yeah, oh, it's over, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And I, without me saying it, without me seeing it, I told exactly what it was. Sure enough, we seen the replay of it, and that's what it was.
Exactly.
And when you see the plan, when I show you the plan, you're gonna say, "Damn, this is how it went."
This is how it went. That's what's up, man. That's what's up. So, what's one of the things that kept you and Calvin? I know you talked about that. When you see the growth, you seen that growth in them at the JOs when they got up there and made the apology speech. What was some of the things that kept you and Calvin like just kept betting and kept connected on Tank?
Well, of course, Cal was the one. I never would have known Tank had it not been for Cal.
Okay.
And I'm that guy that, if I watched this dude grind, put the work in, and we all did it. Many a day, it wasn't no money on the table.
Okay.
This is all out of love, the heart, and the grind.
Yeah.
You're gonna see a lot of people after you grind, you get there, you success, blah blah blah. You're gonna see people you never seen before.
Right.
New friends, family members, hang-ons, whatever you want to call them, right?
Yeah.
But the one consistent in his life outside of me and Boogie was Cal.
Right.
You feel me?
Right.
And so it was no me and Tank outside of Cal.
Okay.
You feel me?
Yeah.
He was a part of the package there.
Off the break. So,
Yeah. You know what I mean? And so I always been like a buffer. You know what I mean? And if it started to be off, even that fight, if you recall that fight, I had to say something in the corner of that fight.
Right.
You know what I mean? But nevertheless, that's how it's always been.
Yeah. That's what's up. So when you how old was Scooter when you started training him?
Scooter's about 10.
He about 10. Okay. So he went through the amateurs and cleared out. How was his record in the amateurs?
He had a real good amateur. I think Scooter only lost like on 100 some odd fights, maybe 17.
Okay.
And most of them was in the nationals.
Right.
But yeah, he was about 10. I saw him. He was a kid. He was a little boy.
Yeah.
Flip Johnson was training him, I believe, then.
Okay.
And I saw him at Ray Leonard's gym. But what caught my eye, they had him dressed so nice, you know what I mean? He moving all around. He wasn't really throwing no punches, but he was moving around. He had a lot of little showmanship with him. And so when I was leaving the gym, leaving the fight, his parents was outside. The father told the mother, this Barry Hunter, that's a dude be on TV, but it was fighters.
Right.
And so we was outside, he asked me how I like his son. I said, who was your son? He told me. I said, I like him. You know what I mean? He had a lot of personality,
Right.
I said, he need to throw more punches. But, he gonna be all right, you know what I mean? If nurtured the right way.
Yeah.
And I didn't know where they was or who they were with at the time. And I said, if time come, man, you need somewhere to go, because he was talking to me. I said, look me up.
Right.
I'll be around.
Right.
And I stepped off.
Right.
And one day I was here Friday night. I'm never in the gym that late on Fridays.
Okay.
And I was just sitting here and listening to some music, just kind of chilling.
Yeah.
And the door opened up. Dude walked in. And then Scooter was with him.
Right.
And it was his dad, you know what I mean? And so he said, man, look, you said we ever needed a place to go, man, come look you up, man. He said, so I'm looking you up. I said, yeah. I said, let me talk to him. So I spoke to Scooter. And little dude, he's a smart little dude. He told me what he felt, what he wanted to do. Said, all right, let's take a ride.
Yeah.
And we started, man. The rest is history.
Yeah, that's what's up, man.
Yeah.
I see a lot of bright things in this future, man.
Oh yeah.
I was down there in Norfolk at that.
Oh,
fight,
you came to the fight?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
That body shot was you heard that during the crowd.
Yes, sir, man. You know what I mean? And the thing is that I really love about Scooter, you got a lot of fighters that, you know, are talented, you know what I mean? But, and in theory, you know, they're going to become world champ or they can get to the title, get, you know, seeded or what have you. But until you do it, it's only theory. You feel me?
Right.
Something about them lights that even when he was young, he would always step his game up.
Attracted to it.
Right, which is rare.
Yeah.
You know, you got a lot of people that get in front of them lights and cameras, Michael Buffett, Jimmy Lennon Jr., you know, they shut down. And I get it.
Yeah.
Because if your mental ain't strong, you got to get used to fighting in front of thousands of people live, millions of people at home. You know, people cursing you,
chuckling, all type of stuff.
People cheering for you, but you don't want to let them down. That's a lot of pressure. You feel me? And everybody can't perform under them circumstances.
It's called for the special ones.
There you go. You know what I mean? And God just wired him a little different. You know what I mean? So there it is.
I got a chance to meet him and his father, man. Good guys.
Yeah, they're real good people,
real
man.
good people, man.
Yeah, I can honestly say in here, you know, you come in, you've been here, you see people walk up to you, don't even know you, don't know your name, they always greet you and shake your hand. You know, that's the type of spot I did. You know what I mean? All that, everybody eating, stealing, shitting out train tracks. Come on, man. Everybody tough.
Right. Can't be like that.
Come on, bro.
Well, there you have it, man. We got a chance to set in with the one, the only, Mr. Headbanger himself, where he don't only train kids or train boys, he turned boys into men.
Yes, sir.
My
yes,
man.
Sir.
Good energy.
Appreciate the love,
Appreciate
man.
it, bro.
Thank you.
My man.
All right.
And there we have it.